Marriages and relationships during a pandemic. That is what we are talking about right now with Shirani Pathak, a couples therapist from the South Bay in the Bay Area. Shirani, thanks for joining us right now.
You're welcome. It's my honor to be here and share some really good information with you guys
I'm
today.
excited to hear it because I'm 13 plus years in, happily married, two children, 7 and 9. And look, we've gone through some tests, just myself and my wife over the years, from the beginning to the middle to having children to our first pet. We've been there, but I honestly feel this is the biggest test of our marriage. And I have a feeling that we're not the only ones out there.
You're absolutely right. You are not the only ones out there going through this. And, most of us haven't been through this type of experience at all ever before. We haven't had a global pandemic since 1918 at this level. So most of us that are alive today have no idea how to navigate these times that we are in right now. Sheltering in place, working from home, having your job and your kids and everybody at home 24/7. We
So
don't know how to navigate.
exactly. Well, I'll talk about family life in a second, but I want to focus on marriage because
Hmm.
look, we're all different, and I understand that some people like to stay home, and that works for them. For my wife and I, on the weekends, we're out of the house. Like, we love going out,
Mm.
taking our children, family experiences, and I feel that's been kind of the hardest part for us is that we're not allowed to do that. So, what do we do in the meantime?
Yeah, it's really about finding alternative ways to have time together. Being a news anchor, I imagine that being an extrovert is something that you enjoy. So not being able to go out is really hard. And so it would be, how can we take time to enjoy what we have and enjoy this time together without the distraction of other things, because it's great to be able to go out, and there's lots of distractions when we're out there in the rest of the world. And so when we can bring it down to, okay, can we schedule a date night in? I actually have a colleague who told her kids, we want date night, and so you guys are responsible for the meal tonight. And they set up this whole restaurant experience, and their kids, might be a little young, but hey, they can still do PB&J, right?
That's great.
And they just set up this whole experience where they were able to let the kids be in charge. And so it's still a family experience, and there's still and mommy and daddy are on date night, and now leave us alone. You guys do screen time while me and daddy get to connect.
I think that's great. I mean, my children are 7 and 9, so I mean, they can whip up some mac and cheese or a P&J, as you said, or even a bowl of cereal. But just taking a load off, coming up with a creative idea like that is interesting. Another thing that we've noticed, we just become a little bit more snippy with each other. Like for instance, the other night, like I was putting away dishes, and I like to put the cups here in a certain spot, and the plates go in this spot, and then she just kind of jumped at me and go, "Just throw them in there, Mike. Just throw them in. It's not a big deal." And I'm like, "Why is it a big deal to you? Why is it a big deal to you?" It's like a little thing turns into a larger thing, and that never really happened before.
Yeah, and the reason that's happening, and that's, again, you're totally normal in that space. We're in this global pandemic, this crisis that we're in, and our bodies, on some level, even if we think we're doing okay, on some level, our bodies are experiencing the trauma and the terror of uncertainty that we're in right now. And then you pair that uncertainty with being at home and not being able to go out, or when you do go out, seeing everybody with masks, or not being allowed to take your reusable bags in anymore, to the grocery store. And just seeing those things are a constant reminder for us that we're in an uncertain time. So our body does this trauma response. And one of the ways trauma shows up is through irritability, through snippiness, through nitpicking and nagging. It's just it's a fight response, actually. It's a way that we respond to trauma. So you're not alone in that.
Good. You know what? And at the end of the night, because I do tend to get up early because I'm a news anchor in the morning hours mainly. So, my night ends, 9 o'clock at night or so. By then, the children are asleep. But by that time, I know we should be spending more time together, my wife and I. We have
Mm.
to take whatever minutes, hours we have to be by ourselves. And I get that. But we do find ourselves, like, she likes to read. I like to just zoom out and not do anything, sit on the couch, maybe watch a show, and then go to bed. But do you feel it's important that when you do have those alone times, especially if you do have children, to really take advantage of that? Because I feel like I could force myself to do that more.
Yeah, and actually hearing what you're saying, that desire to just kind of zoom out and zone out and sit in front of the TV for a little while at the end of the night, that also is a normal response, because the body, needs to check out sometimes so that we can calm ourselves enough to make it through the next day, or to even make it through the night. And so one suggestion might be, if you can, like, can your wife read while you're watching TV in the same room, even if it's on different couches? Like, can you guys share the same space? Because sometimes it's not necessarily about being together like this all the time. It's, can you at least share a space and allow some of that independence while still connecting? And being in a happy, healthy marriage, it sounds like you guys would be able to tolerate that.
Yeah.
that
What do you think? I mean, there's been a debate just among my friends, jokingly but not jokingly. Come January 1st of 2021, do you foresee a boost in new babies out there, or do you see people more divorces out there?
It's interesting because I've seen that joke around about, oh, we're in 9 months, we're going to have a lot of babies. And I don't know that that's 100% accurate, because again, thinking about trauma and the stress response, the body shuts down. So especially for a lot of women, there is no desire, because when we're in this fight or flight mode, the body naturally, biologically shuts down. The last thing it wants to do when we're stressed out is reproduce and create more, because we need to preserve the species as it is right now. So, I'm also noticing though that as people are settling in, then yeah, connection is starting to happen. And divorces, for sure. Like, if you already had issues in your marriage, this experience of being sheltered in place is going to amplify every single challenge that you already had in your marriage. And the gift of it is you can actually use this time sheltering in place to grow together instead of further apart. And so I would really encourage people to take this as an opportunity. How can we grow together? How can we come together? Because yeah, we're in a pandemic right now, but uncertainty is a fact of life. There might be illness, there might be death, and how are we going to navigate all those times of uncertainty
Yeah.
together?
And at the same time, too, our children are watching very closely. They're looking at
Yes.
our relationship. Are we holding hands? Are we the same as we were before, and laughing and having a good time? So that's been a challenge with us as well, I'm sure, for many out there. But when it comes to family life, I found it important that, I know we're all sheltering in place, but we are being responsible when we go outside, but to take, that family hike. Or a little bike ride, just even if it's 30 minutes a day, because to me that is reinforcing with my children that, hey, mom and dad are okay, and when they see that, it makes everyone just happier when we come back under one roof.
Absolutely. And what you're naming is really important, because our children are sponges and they look to us as their heads of household to see, is it safe right now? Are we safe? And an experience like this, we have to really, as the adults in the home, manage our own levels of stress and uncertainty to be able to show up and let them know. And it's okay to acknowledge, like, yeah, things are really uncertain or scary right now, and we're still here and we still got it, and we're still going to show up and connect as a family. So I think it's great that you guys are taking that time.
And I think it's also important to note, and it is, and I've caught myself doing this, like right now, my wife's working full time in our house as I'm working
Mhm.
full time, but she's also downstairs with the children homeschooling. So, I found myself wanting to go out for a little alone time yesterday, just my own little bike ride, and was confronted with, hey, I'm down here with the kids and working full time. Can I go out first? And we're having that debate.
Mm.
I'm wondering if that's leading to arguments about, hey, I do 75% of this, and we're nitpicking right now as to I do more, you do more, and that's not healthy in a relationship.
Yeah, and what we're seeing actually is women are being put in that role a lot more often now of taking care of the homeschooling while they're also trying to balance their job. And so what's coming up a lot in marriages and any partnership is negotiating what it's going to look like in terms of work hours, and who has a work meeting when, and who can be responsible for the kids when, and who gets that break first and foremost. And it's not, I got a break or you got a break. It's, okay, if we only have a half an hour, how about I take the first 15, you get the second 15, and really bring a mindful presence to that 15 minutes that you're going to be. It's almost like a power nap. It's like power alone time to recharge.
Yeah, great point right there. And just saying thank you more. I think if we
Yes.
do that to each other, I think that makes a huge difference. On the flip side, though, Sharani, when this is all said and done, Do you think this is going to make marriages stronger, healthier, when we can walk away and say, hey, we survived this pandemic, not just physically, but literally mentally, we got through it, and I feel like our marriage is better for it?
Absolutely. And that's when couples are committed to showing up and using this time as an opportunity. I heard somewhere that like crisis, a part of the word crisis in another language is opportunity. And so if we can use this crisis as an opportunity to grow together in our marriages, then absolutely you will come out of this stronger.
What about people who aren't married? Let's say they were dating, but they weren't living with their significant other. I
Yeah.
can imagine that's got to be pretty difficult for those types of relationships out there as well.
Absolutely. And you know, the cool thing is just like you and I are zooming in together right now for this interview, a lot of people out there are using Zoom or other types of video conferencing, even FaceTime, to still maintain dates. Like I had a friend last night, she stood me and my husband up because she was on a Zoom date. You know, she's like, I'm
Those
on a date on
line up.
Zoom. Yeah, so you know it's interesting, and there are creative ways to still have connection and partnership, and I'm not going to deny it is hard, especially you know whether you're living together or if you're living apart right now. It's hard and it's challenging, and how can we work together to create something that works for us that we can grow in?
I'll tell you what, I'm a terrible chef. So my wife, I'm very blessed that she is in the house, 24/7, making these wonderful meals. But one thing I wanted to do, I wanted to challenge her was let me in just a little bit. Give me something to
Mm.
stir a pot, and that's another way to come together and just do something that we don't ordinarily do together and take advantage of it.
Right. And it also takes something off of her plate, which lets her know on an acts of service level how much you appreciate her and see what she's doing and how you want to show up and support and participate at this really stressful time.
All right, before we let you go, I'll give you the last word for everyone out there listening. Your advice to all those involved in a marriage, in a relationship, who are living through this pandemic.
Is to know that what we are going through and what you are experiencing is normal. So if you are getting nitpicky, irritable, any of the above, just take a moment, pause, take a deep breath, and remember that you're not alone. We're all in this together. We're all feeling it. And when you can connect to that breath, you can connect to compassion and you can connect to the fact that your partner is having their own experience just the way you're having your own experience. And when we do that, we bring a softness and a gentleness, and it brings us to the place where we can reconnect again.
There you go. Everyone's just needs to take a little deep breath. Shirani Pathak, a couples therapist in the San Francisco Bay Area. And also, I should mention, author, as we see the book behind you there, of Fierce Authenticity, Show Up and Be Seen, Get Love. Shirani, congratulations on the book, and thank you for the conversation. I appreciate the time.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate being here.
Of course.